Hi, and welcome to the Reiki from the Farm podcast, brought to you by me, Pam Allen-LeBlanc from Hidden Brook Farm. I am a scientist, a businesswoman, and a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training. Each week in this podcast, you'll be entertained as you learn about a wide variety of relevant Reiki topics, helping you become a more knowledgeable and effective Reiki practitioner. We caution you, though, this podcast may also dramatically improve your life, and we are so happy that you're here. Hi, and welcome to the Reiki from the Farm podcast, brought to you by me, Pam Allen-LeBlanc from Hidden Brook Farm. I am a scientist, a businesswoman, and a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training. Each week in this podcast, you'll be entertained as you learn about a wide variety of relevant Reiki topics, helping you become a more knowledgeable and effective Reiki practitioner. We caution you, though, this podcast may also dramatically improve your life, and we are so happy. On this week's podcast, I am talking with Dianne Thomas. Dianne is a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training, and she's also a mentor. She's been teaching Reiki for almost 20 years now, and she has a very practical, down-to-earth approach to teaching that I thought our listeners would really appreciate. I'm Pam Allen-LeBlanc, also a licensed Reiki master teacher with the ICRT. I'm not a mentor yet. I will be soon. But we just today wanted to share with you some different tips and information and ideas about teaching Reiki, because the more Reiki teachers we get out there, the more this beautiful modality will spread. Thank you so much, Dianne, for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm so happy to be here and joining you in this conversation. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited too. I'm excited about the thought of more teachers, people finding their confidence and stepping into their power. And because I can't tell you how many people take my master's class, and when we used to break the class up, they would take just the level 3 and not the master's, because they would say, I'm not going to teach. And I just chuckle, Dianne, because I said I was never going to teach Reiki to humans. I was all set to teach it to animals and children. I was fine with that, but I was not planning to teach adults at all. And I now, several hundred students later, and it's my biggest joy is to teach. It energizes me and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I'm excited by the fact that our conversation can help others.
Yeah.
Bridge that gap. Before we begin, I just want to let the listeners know that it's not too late to sign up for our Reiki Master Mentor program. If that's something that you're interested in, I'll put a link in the podcast. We've had our first meeting already, but it's still not too late to join. So if you'd like to join that and get a little help moving your business forward or learning to teach, go ahead and check out that link. Also in October, I've got some licensed, ICRT licensed level 1 and 2 and master classes. Also a licensed Karuna Reiki master class and Animal Reiki level 1 and 2 and masters. And in December, I have all of those classes except Karuna, and I also have an animal communication class. So go ahead and check out the links to our classes as well, if you'd like to join us for any of those. And Dianne will put some links to your website and your information. What do you have coming up that you'd like to let people know about?
I do have several classes coming up this fall, and I'll be going up to Raleigh hopefully to teach my first in-person class.
Wow.
Hopefully. We'll see. We still got a lot to overcome now, but we'll see. Doing my Raleigh tour, and then in March of next year, I'm going to be going up to Nashville. And I have classes, a lot of online. I forget, and online here in Charleston as well, for some in Charleston, South Carolina. I've got 1 and 2 masters, Karuna. And also, if you go to my website, you'll learn about the Traveler's Guide to the Fifth Dimension. If you'd like to just have some mentoring insight into how to elevate your consciousness. So,
Oh, I love that. Can you tell us a little bit more about your traveler's guide?
oh, it's something that I taught the class here about 4 years ago. And the class was so intensive, it was like everybody left.
Yeah.
So I decided to divide it up. And so now we do it in little monthly segments. And I put out some information, and then we meet on Zoom and we discuss it, and everybody gets to add in how it's working for them, or how to bring it more into your daily life, where it's actually practical. Just looking at what we're doing, how to move past duality and judgment, and all the things that are really keeping us limited to who we are, because we are so much more. We have so much potential. And so once we can break these bonds, we can fly.
Wow.
But flying here on Earth, this was a huge thing for me. I had to really figure that one out. So got to be on the Earth. Got to do it here. Yeah.
I agree. And that sounds amazing to you. And I love those messages, and the messages around releasing duality. That's really been coming through in my meditations and in my sessions lately. Just that releasing those limitations, letting go of the story, and beautiful. Before we go too far in, I'm just going to invite everybody to activate their Reiki energy, and we'll do a little invocation to bring in the energy. So I'm just going to invite everyone to close your eyes, to bring your hands into Gasho, and breathe. And today we're talking about teaching Reiki, and you may not be a Reiki master yet. That may not even have entered your field of consciousness yet. But I'd just like you to bring in the Reiki energy, activating all of your symbols. And just feel into, or consider what it would feel like to share this beautiful modality of Reiki with people that you are close to, in a way that they can be empowered themselves with the Reiki energy. Think for a moment of all the beauty and benefits that Reiki has brought to your own life. And just really look into the thought or the question, is that something you'd like to share with others? And don't go into the am I capable? Just, is it something you would like to share with others? And whether the answer is yes or no, I invite you to stay with us through the podcast. But I thank you for sharing your beautiful light and the gift of the Reiki energy with the world today. Thank you for being you. Namaste and Amen. And I should have asked if there was anything you wanted to add to that, Dianne.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Dianne, can you just tell me a little bit about you and how you started down this road to teaching Reiki?
It was a whatever, maybe a midlife crisis, maybe.
Those are the best.
Yeah, I worked for most of my life as taking care of running a dinner theater.
Okay.
And just a mom and pop kind of business and everything. And so my marriage was coming to an end, and I went and got a Reiki session. Somebody had advised me to do that. And it was the most profound experience I had to date. It was just like, I felt like I'd been just energized by a bolt of lightning. So it literally felt like that. I had to find out more about it. I found the ICRT online and found that Laurel Gaia was teaching a class in Myrtle Beach. So Laurel she was traveling and teaching Reiki. And she was doing it because her dad lived in Myrtle Beach. And so they thought, why not do that? And they had a little motel room that they had rented to teach the class. And I later found out from Michael, he said, oh, we were beside ourselves thinking this is horrible environment. But to me, it was beautiful. I mean, the whole thing, I didn't think anything about the motel room they put the energy in there, and that's really all that needed to happen. It really was. But so, yeah, that's where I started in 2001. And when I had gone through my divorce, everybody said, you can do anything. What do you want to do? And I said, I definitely am not going to teach.
We have to be careful when we say we won't.
Oh, my.
I said that too. I am not teaching.
In fact, in my experience was that when we were going through that class, when I got on the table, my throat completely closed up to the point that I literally had to get them to stop. I said, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming. A year later, Michael and Laurel come back to South Carolina, and I get a place on the beach, and we do our master class.
Wow.
And I knew I was going to teach. I started teaching 6 months later. Family and friends just said, would you like to try this? And I swear I thought, oh, this isn't going to work. I was doing these attunements, and they said, I was just doing this or that. And I thought, oh, it didn't work. I went through all of those things. And then when I handed them, what was interesting, that first attunement, and I handed them the symbols, and they went, oh, but this is what I was painting on the wall. They literally had seen the symbols in their meditations, but they just didn't realize it. So it was so interesting. And I could go, oh my gosh, it does work. So we all need that confirmation. And I know that's kind of part of so when you start out, just don't put so much pressure on yourself to feel like you have to do it perfectly, because I was so afraid I was going to mess it up. And of course, Laurel always told me, you can't mess it up. You just can't.
It's not about us as the teacher. It's about we're just that conduit to provide the connection that the student has asked for. And it's between the student and the Reiki, isn't it?
Always. You're really not in it. You're just facilitating, as you say, to make the connection. It's all that you're doing. And so even now, without the physical attunements, even the placements and the ignitions and all, they're all just about making the connection, the student directly to the student. It's always been that way. Yeah.
I know that. We talk about being afraid that it didn't work. And William Rand tells the story about his first class. And I don't know if you've probably heard it, Dianne, but literally thought he was going to have to give everybody the money back because he was so worried that it didn't work. And he just was like, this is terrible. And he said, fortunately, he wasn't the first person who spoke. And the students, who were all very highly clairvoyant students and people and friends that he knew and who really could see energy and feel it and knew a lot about it, they all started talking. We're like, William, that was amazing. And then he continued teaching. But I think we all experienced that in our first class, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's not terrified to teach that first class.
It's just a little hurdle. And with my throat issues, I realized, of course, that, and I kept bringing up problems. I'd push through so many times when I would get a sore throat. I taught a class almost with practically laryngitis. And I just really not let myself cancel a class because I was having a problem. I had to push through it. It's something that, and it was easy to, I shouldn't say it was easy to push through, but after you feel that first experience, when they said, I saw these symbols and I went, oh my gosh. It was just that first class. It was so incredible. That gives you the momentum. You want that feeling again. You just, I just can't wait to do it again. When can I set up another class?
I tell people it's addictive. And once you have the beauty of watching someone connect with that energy for the first time, or even connect at the master level from level 1 and 2, or Karuna master from master, or animal Reiki, like once you witness that, it's very special.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't ever see myself stopping teaching Reiki. I mean,
I've already told my husband I'm never going to retire because why would I retire from this? I love I love teaching Reiki. It's so rewarding, isn't it? And Dianne, I felt comfortable teaching animals and children. And I only later realized that it's because I'm an empath. And so I so often, and my form of empathy, like I felt clairsentience. I felt people's illnesses in my body and things like that. And I also seem to feel people's denser emotions and take those on. And that was very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I remember, though, realizing I was actually just flying home from studying my master's in England with William Rand. And I remember flying home saying, wait a minute, I love animals. Animals are people. Therefore, I love people. And just feeling the truth of that and feeling my love for humanity and for humans and human beings just washed through me. And I went, you have to teach them. How can you keep this incredible energy away from them? And then I had a realization that what I didn't was feeling the denser energies that they were releasing. And I realized I didn't have to. I had the tools of Reiki to help me with that. And you know what? I actually set up a class as soon as I got home. I'm just like you. I got home at the end of May, and I taught my first class June 21st. And yeah, and I was really fortunate because I kept changing the date of the class to try to accommodate. There were 5 students who wanted to study with me. And one of the 5 would, or 2 of the 5 would sometimes say, oh, now I have to work that day. I can't do that day. So I kept changing. And finally, and I didn't realize it was the equinox or the solstice rather, but I finally settled on June 21st, and it looked like 4 of the 5 could attend. So I said, okay, great. We're going to hold it then. And then at the last minute, 1 dropped out, and then 2 didn't show up. So I only had 1 student. And I really highly recommend, and it was somebody that I was comfortable with. And then the nerves just went out of it for me. And I was just able to share with her the energy, the work, my stories. And so I really recommend to people that if just even holding a class with one person that you feel quite comfortable with, just to giving. How do you feel about that? Is that something?
That was my first class, was my daughter-in-law, who had actually, she knew all about Reiki, had not been trained. When I mentioned that I had done this, she goes, "Oh, I want that class." And her dad was also very interested because he said he was naturally attuned. He said, "So Reiki," he said, "is that something like I cut my hand and then I put my other hand on it for about 15 minutes and then the cut's gone?" And I went, yeah.
Just exactly like that.
That's pretty awesome. But he had actually been struck by lightning. Yeah. So I said, he was divinely attuned. But he said, "I'd love to learn about it. I'd love to have some understanding about it." So,
Yeah, there's always students like that too, Diane, who were natural with it, but after the class, they were like, "Oh, thank you. I understand it so much better now."
yes. So there was really, oh, yeah, you want to get people for your first class who are going to take the pressure off so that you can relax and be yourself with them. So it's not scary. And when I didn't charge them, quite frankly,
Yeah.
I felt that this was their family and this was me learning how to do this and me getting over that initial hump of doing it. So I appreciated that. Small class, comfortable people. Yeah, I definitely recommend it that way, just to get your feet wet. And then you can go, and then you feel that excitement and that's going to carry you forward.
I like that. That's great advice, Diane. What are some of the obstacles that you notice come up for people around teaching? What prevents them from moving forward?
I think a lot of people actually feel like they probably have some worthiness issues going on, that that they have to be, and they feel like they have to be like perfect in it in order to be able to teach it. And Reiki masters we're not perfect people at all. We're because it's not our energy that it's coming through. So you have to understand that, like we were talking about it's, you're just there to facilitate and to prepare the student to receive it directly. It's it's not about you being worthy. It's about you desiring for others to share this amazing energy. For me, Reiki was something that really set me on a whole new path of learning how to be consciously aware of who I am and learning to love myself. It gently guided me all along the way. So why would you want to share that with everyone around you?
I love that. Just taking it, because that is the thing that so often holds us up, isn't it? It's just, who am I to do this? And I know one of the things that happened with me is I put my Reiki masters and teachers on a pedestal. They never asked to be on a pedestal. And I remember I tried to do the same with William Rand, and he doesn't have that. He's just a person like everybody else, and he doesn't claim to be perfect. And he just would not let me create that pedestal for him. And in fact, I was so nervous when I first met him that I mispronounced my own name 3 times. And when I finally got my name pronounced, I just said, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Rand. I'm just so nervous to be here." And he said, "It's William. And why are you nervous to be here?" And I didn't even think about it. I just blurted out the way my pathological empath honesty does. Is I just blurted out, because Reiki masters are wonderful and amazing people, and I'm not. I'm just neat. And then I never really thought about it, but that was really at the core of my beliefs, is how could I be a Reiki master? I was just me, and Reiki masters for these amazing people. And I love that, what you said, we're just people. And the energy is wonderful and amazing. And we're blessed to have this opportunity to be able to share that connection with other people. But we are just people, aren't we?
Yes. And the other thing that I did run across some people who wanted that title, that they thought the title was going to propel them forward or something. And it's okay, you're going into it for the wrong reason. Don't go into it for the title. Go into it for the sharing of Reiki. That's the way I always put it, is I can't wait to share my love of Reiki with you to every one of my students. And yeah, so when you have someone who thinks that the master is that, has that, what do I want to say?
It's almost like they feel like they've arrived because they're a master. It sounds like, or something like that, or the status of it.
Yeah, the status of it. And I really caution people not to go there. I said, Reiki masters are not people who have mastered Reiki.
No.
Reiki masters, and this is in your book, but Laurel said it a long time ago. Reiki masters are where you are committing to Reiki being more of a mastery of your life.
Yeah. And I even think I read it. Reiki masters allow Reiki to master them.
Yes.
And I feel that way. I love that I can just turn my guidance over to Reiki, and because it makes much better decisions than I do. My own. And so it is so beautiful to have that opportunity to do that. And so one of the other things that I never thought of, but I just taught some students from France, and they said in France, the apartments are very small, like it's very difficult to have, and spaces that you rent are quite expensive. And so if you don't know what size class you're going to have, and if you're going to be able to cover the costs and that sort of thing, it just throws up some additional obstacles. And I remember one of my students was just thrilled that now that we can teach online, that's no longer an obstacle for him. And he can make a nice background in the apartment that he has and go ahead and reach out and teach people. And certainly I've noticed that the online, I love it. All my classes are online at the moment. And because I do usually travel to Australia and the United Kingdom and across Canada and sometimes the US to teach, but we're really not able to do that right now. But I love teaching online because I just taught a class 2 weeks ago where I had students from Hong Kong, China, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, and Brazil. All in the same class.
Wow.
It was amazing. And so that opportunity, and you've got somebody coming for a future class from Sri Lanka, and she's just thrilled because she says, I could never, I couldn't get there to get class, and now she can. So I'm just wondering if you have any comments or anything to say about the online or about any of those other obstacles that sometimes crop up.
And I do have some students that actually saying, no, I have to do in-person classes, and I'm just not going to do classes until then. You don't know what you're missing.
I agree. I love the online format.
I will now. I know when I was thinking about how I would change when we start doing in-person classes, and I do have some set up. But what I want to incorporate is being able to do online with in-person classes.
Yeah,
so
that's what
now expand that whole thing. So those people that want the in-person class can get it. But what I've found from the online, and I usually when I have somebody that says, no, I'll wait for this, I go, you're going to miss out on something that most people actually, even though you teach it and your in-person classes about how distant Reiki works, and you do examples and you do practices, and I encourage them to do that. What I found was very few of them actually really trusted it, really believed in it.
I found that too.
And with the online class, you're going to believe that you can do it in person, but now you get to practice literally with other students here online, and they walk away and they totally believe in it. I mean, and here we are in this day and time. It's partly for a reason. It's for us to help us to expand that understanding that we're not confined by time and space anymore.
I agree. And that has just opened up so much possibilities, hasn't it? Like I said, I had students, because I do travel around and speak and this sort of thing. And many times students maybe couldn't join me when I did travel to teach, or saw me speaking at an event. But then it's really difficult to get to New Brunswick, Canada. It's a very small place, and you've got to take a lot of flights to get here. And I live on a farm. The hotels are a half an hour, 20 minutes to a half an hour away from me. And so it's a lot. And so I just found it easier to travel to the students. So that's what I did quite often. And we'll talk about that a little later. But I love the online, because I had students say, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to study with you for years. Now I can. And not only that, I found the classes they go a little deeper than they used to in person. And I think it's because the person doesn't have to think about traveling home and getting their meal, and they are home and they're in a comfortable place and they're able to completely relax. I also think the online classes are brilliant for introverts because they don't have to be in all of that other energy that doesn't necessarily feel comfortable to them. And now I love every aspect of it. And of course, sometimes in our Reiki classes, we get emotional. And if you want privacy while you do that, you just shut your video off. And so
when there's a lot of advantages, I just really, I think just try it once. Just try it once. It's not, and quite frankly, and I'll have to say this too, I had probably a breakdown when I was getting ready to teach my first online class, more than I had when I was getting ready to teach my first in-person class. So really, I understand the overwhelming. You start off with, you don't necessarily have to do an online class if the technology feels overwhelming. I was all upset because I couldn't figure out how to do breakout rooms, and I had to do breakout rooms, and oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I'm not even doing that. I just threw up my arms and I walked away. I said, I can't do this. When a couple hours later, Reiki goes, okay, get back in there and we'll get this figured out. But something that really it was all that anxiety about technology, the changes. And it was like, but
Dianne, I wrote an article about that, and I'll include a link to the article in this podcast. And it was about how COVID motivated me to get over my fear of technology, because I can break technology just by being around it. I had my husband, the whole electrical system of my husband's car shut down, and it was a 1.5-year-old car, just because I was in it. And so I was really resistant to technology, and it's so weird because I love it now. And it's made me realize how many more people we can reach and we can affect by embracing it. I'm sorry, somebody's just arrived, so my dogs are doing a little barking here. Okay.
I'll fill in while Pam's and let the dogs have their say. They've got to talk about it. They've got to tell her about it. And talking about that technology, because one of the things, of course, the other thing to remember is that you don't have to clean your house. You just have to not have clutter around you.
I have to admit to enjoying that part of it. I used to hire somebody to come in and we'd do a full cleaning of the house before I taught.
Yeah, if you're clean, unless you have an actual studio, you're not going to start off there anyway. So, yeah, you don't have to do that, and you don't have to worry about all the other stuff, and just relax to be.
I love that.
Really pretty interesting. And I don't have to plan menus either. I would freak out because it's like, are you vegan and this and that, and how I was going to plan everything so to make sure that everybody got a lunch, because we had to break for lunch and where to go. And I don't have to worry about that anymore.
And that was so complicated. I just threw my hands up in the air about that and said, okay, I have to ask everybody to bring a lunch because this one's vegan, that one's paleo, that one I'm gluten free. Like it was just too complicated, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I love that people get to eat their own food that they like, so that's another way that they feel a little more comfortable. No, I like so much about the online classes. Yeah. What would you say, in addition to that incredible feeling when you get to be part of someone connecting with Reiki, what are some of the advantages that you've noticed to teaching Reiki?
We know that Reiki is a little bit of a trickster. That's what I say. It tricks you into it. So Reiki said, when my students come in and everybody wants to help other people, and I do too. We all do.
Yes, we all do.
He said, before you help someone else, you're going to have to receive it first. You have to bring it into yourself first. And this to me was the real eye opener. It was like, oh, I get it first and then I give it. Oh, what a concept, right?
Yes.
So Reiki, where was I going with this?
Just what a trickster Reiki is, how it tricks us into working on ourselves in order to help others, I think is.
Yeah, we must receive it first in order to give it. So when I do a class, I'm just like, I'm bathing in it like all the time. And it's not just, it's wonderful to feel that as they have their beautiful aha moments, but you get to be in it as well. You're just receiving it all the time. It's just coming in every time you talk about it. Just saying the word Reiki activates everything. And you're sitting there talking about it for what, 8 hours? You're just bathing in it. So it's very healing for you as well. It's going through some treatments things right now. And I have not stopped teaching because when people say, wow, you have the energy to teach. And I go, oh, absolutely. Because it actually helps me to continue to teach because I just feel so energized by it. Yeah.
I love it. I would agree. The energized, it just feels so beautiful to be in the energy for that length of time and to witness other people connecting with the energy. And I almost feel like a proud mama. And as I watch them then start to integrate the Reiki into their lives and make those beautiful changes and step into the joy and the freedom. And it's just, what a gift, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful gift.
I really.
And so what I also like about the little trickster Reiki, bring this up, is that, so Holy Fire came in.
Yes.
And Holy Fire, of course, is this beautiful upgrade energy. It's working with us and it's working with us. It's really aimed to help you.
Yeah.
And so you take the master for that, but also to be able to teach. So I just said, it's interesting. Holy Fire said, you can't get ignited to Holy Fire until you do that master level.
That's true. That's true. We really don't get the full access to Holy Fire until we do the masters, do we?
Right. And so Holy Fire is with you in 1 and 2, and it's working with you, but you're not actually fully, it's not going to be ignited in you until you get to that master level. And then when it ignites in you, that's also going to help just go, wow, why wouldn't I want to share this?
Yeah. Another thing, Dianne, that you're just making me think of is that when the Holy Fire came in and when we started to do the placements and ignitions as opposed to the attunements that we used to do traditionally, it simplified teaching.
Yes, absolutely. And I did have students that started teaching because of that.
Yes, me too.
Because the attunements just seemed too complicated when they did their master level, and they just kept putting it off because they were so afraid they were going to do something wrong. And I got that. I went through that too. But now they had something that was it's so simple. And you just, yeah, it definitely opened that door as well.
There's a lot of people that teach my master class, and they say they're not going to teach, and I'm fine with that. That's fine. Take it for yourself. But I do have to cover teaching. It's part of, I have to make sure the other students are ready to teach, and please stay. It's to give you your certificate. You have to be at all the parts of the class. And so they stay, of course. And when we go through the outlines and they realize that the ICRT has things so well organized that they have these beautiful manuals that you can just give your student and all the information's there. They have outlines you can just follow. When they realize the attunement process is simple now, everything is simple and beautiful. And when they realize how easy teaching is, and the rewards that might come with it, a lot of them say, maybe I could teach. And they maybe had built it up to be so complicated.
Yeah, they've literally done all the work for you. All you have to do is just follow the outlines.
Yeah, I do love that. I love, and of course, you can always teach extra and add to the class, but I do love that it's all lined out, and so that it's really simple. One of the things William Rand talks about is that there's an energy of Reiki, and then there's the energy when you do your self sessions. And then when you branch out and start doing sessions for others, there's another energy there so you get an expansion of the energy that you're receiving. But then he says, when you teach, it expands further. And so raises your vibration. And so I always found that to be really interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. But it's every time you use it, every time you are building on that, you are expanding and expanding. Yeah.
I love that. Tell me a little bit about traveling to teach, because you and I both also travel to teach, or before COVID we did. And where are some of the places you've traveled to teach, do you?
I first started traveling was basically because I would put it out there that if you came up with 2 more students, I would travel to your place. It just depended on, as if you get a class together, I'll come to you. My first one was in 2009. I went up to Virginia, and then I started going down to Fairhope, Alabama. I've been to Alabama, Fairhope, and Birmingham because there were people. My friend had a Reiki studio there, so she said, "Come teach here." And And then, but I started about 4 years ago. My husband and I started building on this dream we had of being on a sailboat and traveling all over the world, kind of thing. And so I realized that if we were going to do that, I needed to restructure my classes.
Right.
So I then went into, I used to live in Nashville. So I went into Nashville and I started establishing teaching there. My daughter-in-law had a studio there, so I could teach Reiki there. And then I had friends in Raleigh. So I picked places where I had some connection with. I had people I could stay with. I found and a very easy place for me to hold the classes. And I went into Asheville. I have friends there. And so I did Asheville and Raleigh. And I was going to set up a little plan so I could, wherever I was in the world, I could fly into Charleston, pick up all my stuff for my class, drive to maybe Raleigh and hold my classes there. I could then drive to Asheville, hold my classes there, drive to Nashville, hold my classes there, and then bring it all back to Charleston and store it. And then 3 months later, do the same thing again. So that it was just kind of, that's where I started with it. So obviously everything changed or put it on hold, but
Right.
I will have some version of that. So that's really what got me into really finding and setting out that that kind of that layout. Now on our sailboats, we're now on the sailboat. We've got that far. And we're going to, I look forward to having classes in the islands and incorporating maybe some sailing and Reiki class and snorkeling or scuba diving. Depends on what people like and do that. And so I'm not really sure how that's going to look, but I think that's going to be really cool.
I think that's going to be really cool. Can I sign up, please? Wow.
Yeah, I've already had somebody sign up and says, I want Karuna, but I'm not doing it till you're on the sailboat because I'm going to be there.
I think it occurs to me that if you have Wi-Fi, the sailboat might be a very good place to do those combined classes from.
Very well can do it. Yeah, I'm not on the sailboat today because our Wi-Fi right now is not very good and it's pretty noisy at the docks and people hollering and my dog's barking and everything. So I'm at a friend's house. It's just right down the street. But yeah, we're enjoying it. It's amazing. My little traveling home and Reiki studio.
I love that, Dianne. That is so cool. And one of the things that when I wanted to travel to teach, it's actually when I joined the ICRT licensed teacher program, because we have to do a certain number of classes in order to move through the program. And for some reason, the Reiki energy wanted me to move through the program a little faster than what I had wanted. I didn't understand why until I realized I finished the program just as COVID came. Oh. And now now I understand why, but I didn't understand it at the time. And but I literally could not hold that many classes in New Brunswick. It's a very small place and there weren't enough students to hold that number of classes in a 6-month period. And so I scratched my head and the Reiki energy showed me, but you could travel to teach and then you could fill the requirements, no problem. And I thought, oh, I've always wanted to travel. Why don't I travel to teach places that I really want to go? So I was guided I had a student who hosted me in Ottawa, Ontario. And so I taught there. Then I had a student who hosted me out in Western Canada in Edmonton and one that hosted me in Colorado. And that was lovely. So then I had a friend who said, look, Pam, we really need some ICRT Reiki teachings in Australia. And I said, Oh, I've always wanted to go to Australia. I think I may have made that one happen. And so she hosted me. So it can be so lovely. I find that the people that host me, they set up the space and they help me organize the class, and they get the students, help get the students lined up. And I just have to go in and teach. And I've been really fortunate. Most of the people that host me feed me and do all the things that I would forget to do myself, eat. And they even, a lot of them are people that I know or that I'm friends with. So I even stay with them. So I don't, even if it's a small class, I only have the expense of the flight. I don't necessarily have hotels and things like that. A lot of them pick me up at the airport, so I don't have to worry about that. So that's really worked well for me. How do you set up your classes when you travel?
The setup of the classes, I want to keep it very intimate. I think that's, of course, all of us. I don't stand in front of a class and they're all out there. We're in a circle. We always are. And when when I travel, I just use simple things like TV trays. And everybody has their little desk because I don't like the big tables. I take a lot of colorful scarves and Indian kind of prints and things like that, and screens, so that I can, if I'm in a large space, I can wall it off so it's more intimate.
Nice.
To do that. Just if you're in a large, because my daughter-in-law's studio, they have big rehearsal rooms.
Right.
It's like you're in this big expansive space, and it just brings them in. So I'll just put 3 screens around it, and it just brings us in. It's just, we can all feel ourselves gathering together. And I also take lamps.
Really?
I discovered in my first class, when I turned off the lights, it was really black. It was like, oh, there's nothing else in here. For our first meditation, it was like, okay. So I found some like $10 lamps that come apart. So I just put them together. They're torch lamps. So they're up, they're not. And then, so they're on all the time. So they set a nice soft mood when you turn off overheads, if you have overheads and things like that. So it just sets a better atmosphere. So I carry those little boxes. They're nothing. So
You probably do something for your music too.
oh yes, I carry a little music set with my CDs in it, and I have my little remote control, and and I only carried 2 tables. But if I'm in a place where they don't have more tables, because I do massage places too, where they'll have extra tables, but you can do chair Reiki too. Dr. Usui did chair Reiki.
Yeah.
If you're on the table, some are doing chair Reiki. It's doable. There's nothing, and I've heard a lot of other ways that people get around having to carry you're going to have to carry a huge amount of tables in order to make sure that everybody gets their practice sessions. But the most important thing is you creating a safe place. Energy, you have to have that energy just hold you in a safe place so that they're free to experience. And I think that when I think back on that motel room, it's like it never dawned on me that there was anything wrong with it, although they were a little concerned. But they had put so much Reiki in that room, and it was safe and it was beautiful. And I think that's the biggest key. Just create a safe place for your students. Yeah.
Oh, I love that, Dianne. Thank you. And I know I've even had people, like I've asked the students and clients to bring Reiki tables, and
Yeah.
because a lot of them are coming from not so far away. And And I know William does that. Any of the classes that I've taken with William, there's a lot of us, and he just asks us to bring our Reiki table. And yeah, so that's really neat. What advice do you have for other Reiki masters who are ready to teach, and when they're thinking about teaching online, traveling to teach, whatever, any of the things that we're talking about, what advice would you have for them?
If you haven't taught before, the first thing I advise people to do is to go back and take that class again.
Oh, that's good advice.
Because the first time you took it, you were learning. But when you take it again, you are looking through the eyes of a teacher of, oh, how does she do that? Oh, and you're seeing it from a different perspective because the information, or maybe some of the information that kind of slid by the first time might pop in. But I think that's what I tell my students. The first thing you do is you review the class. And you look at the outlines and you see how it's going to come together. And then you can, for me, I'm always open to my students asking me questions about, I don't remember how you did that. So, well, this is how this works. And I'm always there to support the students to teach. It's just part of what you need to do. And what we discussed it before, just start off with something that is not quite overwhelming. Just a few people, family, comfortable people that you're comfortable with, just so that you can get over the jitters of it and get comfortable with it and know that you can do it. It's pretty much that. One of the students I had, she had taken the class and it was really overwhelming for her. And then I couldn't get her to get started. So I actually said, let's put a class together. So we put a class together up in Raleigh. It was my class, but it was held at her place. And so I went through and I said, okay, now we're going to do this. And when we got through it the second time, or for her the second time, she realized, she says, I can do this. I went, yeah, of course you can. But it took that different perspective, because the first time she took the class, she was so overwhelmed by everything. It was like, it was a different feeling. It was a different emotion. If you can carry that emotion into your teaching, but you have to remember what it was like when you were there to connect with your students, but still, yeah.
I know in my first class, I did so much healing that I don't remember.
Oh, that.
I've actually reviewed every class at least 4 times, and I'm not done. It's my intention. And I especially love reviewing classes of our licensed teachers because, of course, we have that additional 1,000+ hours of training. So there's just so much depth to those classes. I actually intend to start as soon as I can to go around and start maybe doing exchanges with some of the licensed teachers, because you learn something in every class. And I've taken classes from the same teacher again and learn more and been like, oh, I don't remember that, or she's approaching it differently this time and this resonates more with me. And I've taken classes from different teachers and said, oh, I like how this teacher does that. And I'm not going to stop reviewing classes because I love it. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, those are great advice. And then what about, do you have any funny stories or mishaps from your teaching or traveling to teach?
I'll go back to that rehearsal place that my daughter-in-law had. It was our first time, and we're sitting in pitch black, But she had 2 rehearsal rooms, and what she failed to tell me on Sunday was that a little group came in and they would set up and have their little church meeting there.
Okay.
And that's fine. But so she said, oh, but they'll be in this whole other area. You won't even know they're there. Except when they start singing. That's what, she didn't say that, but it was like we were doing it and we were in the middle of a placement and that silent time and it's all quiet. And all of a sudden we hear, hallelujah. Yeah, it was like, okay, it's hard and stay focused on it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And the beautiful thing is that the Reiki energy works anyway. And I know sometimes people don't experience the meditations quite in the same way that they want to or hope they will or expect to. And it always works anyway. So I guess that's the positive about that. But that is how the culmination of the whole thing. Something I was doing a class once at home and we had just finished talking about this concept of just letting your inner light shine and how Reiki can help us do that. And then we went into our placement and I had the nice quiet music and I was trying to do it a slightly different way than I usually did. And so the first song went through and I was waiting for the second song to come through. And all of a sudden it came in and went, shine bright like a diamond. And then it started into this pop song. And I went, oh my God. And I grabbed it and stopped it and put it back to the meditation music. But everybody was in stitches afterward because that's exactly what we had just been talking about. They all almost felt like the Reiki energy had put that message into the class, shine bright like a diamond. So I guess it doesn't matter where you teach. There's always going to be something. I've always taught out of my home. And I used to, like, the children would get home from school at 4:30 and I still had 2 more hours of class to go through. So they knew that they had to go upstairs and be quiet and all that. And I used to sometimes be concerned about the noise that they made. And then I was at a class with William Rand in a hotel and they were banging around in the hallway outside of the class. And they kept coming in like during our meditations to check the heat and the air conditioning because it wasn't working. They were making all this noise and I started laughing and I realized it's really okay. Oh, it's okay if my kids make a little bit of noise, no matter where you are. You're not necessarily going to get that beautiful silence. But yeah. Are there any things that you're going to do differently once things open up from COVID? It sounds like the traveling is definitely still part of what you plan to do. What are you looking at?
I think one of the things I would do differently is what I mentioned is try to figure out how to do online and in person together. I don't know. Reiki will just guide me, whatever else needs to happen.
It really will.
You don't plan on too much because then something happens and then just. Our boat is named, by the way, Wu Wei.
Oh, I love that.
WEI. It's a Taoist term and it means flow.
Yes.
Yes.
And just be. It means just be, doesn't it?
Yes.
And just flow.
And also,
I love that.
And using the natural forces of nature to propel you forward, which is what a sailboat's all about anyway. Yeah.
I love that. Dianne, is there anything you'd like to add? Any advice or anything before we move into our meditation today?
All I can say is that so many people say it's just do it.
It's true, isn't it? Because it's not as hard. even these YouTube videos, this is our podcast, that it's also being recorded as a YouTube video. And I've had a YouTube channel set up for months and months that it was so big in my head. Like, how can I do YouTube videos? And yet, when I interviewed William Rand just the other week, he said, no, let's do it as a video. And he broke down that barrier for me and made me realize it's much simpler than I think. And I know that when I do offer, I'm going to continue offering online classes because for my region, it just makes a lot of sense. But I will be traveling again to Australia and the United Kingdom to teach in person. And I probably will do one combined class here in New Brunswick, because also in the winter, it can be really difficult for people to get here. So with that, there's that. And I think it's going to be so interesting to just have some of the class up on the TV and some of the class in the room with me. So that's going to be my next big adventure too, is how to do that combined class. And I may even see if I can get strong enough internet, if I can do that in Australia, because of course, Australia is a pretty big place to travel around as well. So I'd love to see if I can offer the combined class there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a delight to talk to you today. And I'm like you, I'm very excited about the possibility of a lot of our listeners just maybe picking up a few tips or a bit of information, whatever they need to move forward into teaching. And in our meditation today, that's what I'd like to focus on, is just releasing any of the blocks or barriers that you might have to teaching, and just bringing in the Reiki energy so that it can help you find your way forward on that path in a way that's relatively comfortable to you. But again, I don't know anybody who's not a bit nervous before their very first class or their very first online class. And probably the both of us are going to be nervous before our first hybrid class as well. I'm quite certain I will be.
I've always heard that if you didn't have a little bit of butterfly, you're not really fully engaged in what you're doing. That's just part of
that. I love that. And I just read something that says we often look at fear as something to stay away from, but fear is actually an indication that we're really interested in it and that it's important for us and it's on our life path.
Right.
So it's,
yeah.
And
I would advise you, if you're those that are looking to or maybe feel a little intimidated by teaching, don't focus. Yes, you need to move those blocks, but don't focus so much on that. Focus on the excitement of it. Focus on what you're gaining from it, and know that there are people out there that Pam's not going to be teaching. I'm not going to be teaching. All these teachers are not going to be teaching because they're waiting for you to step into teaching. They want your style. They want what you offer, not what I offer or what a Pam offers. We all have students that are waiting for us, and you have students that are waiting for you. So focus on that excitement, because that excitement will actually shine the light on the blockages and melt them away.
Oh my gosh. That is fantastic advice, Dianne. I think that will be incorporated into our meditation. Thank you. If you are driving, I just invite you to pull over to the side of the road or hit pause at this point, because we don't want you to get injured or hurt. You're important to us. And these meditations can sometimes go quite deep. And for everyone else, I invite you now to close your eyes, to bring your hands into Gassho, to activate your Reiki energy, and then place them comfortably on your body. And I invite you to just think about the possibility of being that teacher, that bright light in the world that shares the light with others. And just let that feeling settle around you. And I invite you to think for a moment of some of the things that might hold you back might be a lack of a space. It might be difficulty moving forward. You may not feel prepared or ready or worthy. We seldom do feel prepared or ready when we teach that first class. There may be other obstacles or blocks or barriers, and just give them some thought with the intention today of being willing to let them go. I invite you to imagine that it's a beautiful, warm, sunny day and that you're walking through a trail in a beautiful forest. And as you do, and as you breathe into yourself, you breathe in the life energy of the forest. As the energy of the earth flows up through the bottoms of your feet. You walk until you come to a clearing in the forest, and in the middle of the clearing is a small hill covered with soft grass and beautiful wildflowers. I invite you to climb up to the top of the hill, just feeling the flowers and the grass brushing against your legs. When you get to the top, you can lie down, feeling the earth and the grass beneath your body as you gaze up into the sky. And as you gaze up into the sky, a beautiful beam of light pierces the clouds and falls down to shine on you and all around you. We may even feel like it shines through you. And you recognize right away this is no ordinary light. This is a light from the highest heaven, a light from the heart of God. And as you feel yourself embraced in the arms of the earth, the beautiful light of the divine earth shines up through you as well, and they meet together in your own heart. And they cause your heart light to shine. It shines above you, below you, on each side, in front of you, behind you, and within you. And as your heart expands, it sends out a call to those students who have been waiting for you, that you're ready. I always tell my students that when someone asks them to teach, that is the universe telling them they're ready. So go ahead and let Reiki send out that call for you. And just be prepared to hear the response, the readiness. And the beam of light just begins to melt, the two beams of light begins to melt your obstacles. Some of them flow into the earth and some of them stretch up into the sky. And I invite you to imagine your first class. Just imagine that wonderful feeling of having shared the gift of Reiki with another. Letting go of the fear, the worry, and just think to yourself, where could I hold a class? Who do I know that might be interested in learning this? Would I feel more comfortable teaching online or in person? Where could I go to review a class? Just invite the Reiki energy as it releases your resistance and the obstacles to reach out ahead of you and clear the path for you forward. And we're going to spend some time here today. Now that the path is cleared forward, just allow the energy of teaching to flow through you. And if you're not yet at the master level, that's okay. You can still go ahead and say yes and be willing to move forward. And when you are at the master level, perhaps you'll review your level 1 and 2 class at the same time so that you are ready to teach afterward. The world needs more Reiki teachers today. Thank you for saying yes, no matter what level you are at. Is there anything you would add, Dianne?
Just love who you are and trust that the energy will guide you in exactly the way you need to approach the next level of your Reiki.
Yes. And step into the guidance of the energy. Thank you. Now I invite you to feel that excitement settle around you. Excitement for your next step, whether it's teaching classes or taking classes. However, you are meant to move forward, moving forward in a way that's exactly right for you, and allowing Reiki to lead the way. I want to thank you all for joining us here today. And I want to thank you too, Dianne, for being here. And namaste, amen, ashe, shalom. And so it is. Thank you.